Upstate New York is one of the few places left in the country where you can't pull out a smartphone, tap an app, and have a ride-sharing service like Uber come pick you up and take you where you need to go.
Last month, we asked the question, what will it take for lawmakers to approve ride-sharing upstate? Support for it is overwhelming. But in tonight's New York State Exposed report, the other side of the argument from a group that has a lot to lose.
I've been driving on and off for 20 years.
Bayan Hagos is a cab driver. He works for Park Avenue Taxi, and he's acutely aware of the pressure on lawmakers to allow ride sharing. Hagos says before that should happen, though, there should be a level playing field. He points out the cabbies have to pay $550 for a hack plate, thousands more for insurance, and they have to undergo background checks with Rochester police.
The police department know every cab driver. We fingerprinted. They know the names, address, and everything.
Uber says the taxi lobby is just trying to keep competition out of the market.
We're not opposed to ride sharing. What we're opposed to is the lack of public safety.
John Tomasi is president of the Upstate Transportation Association, a coalition that represents taxi drivers in New York. And he says Uber is putting people at risk by not making drivers undergo fingerprint background checks.
Right now in Rochester, if you want to be a taxi cab driver, you go down to the police station does a fingerprinting and does background check and then okays you. It's a lot more detailed than simply checking a database, which is what Uber says they're doing.
Uber does background checks of its drivers, but opposes fingerprinting. It says the added regulations are costly and slow.
How do you convince people that you folks are looking out for their interests and not your own self-interest?
Well, it's a little difficult to do because we almost start from a sense of like we're defending ourselves. But I think when we talk about the public safety issues, again, there's a supposition on the public's part that it's provided in place. So we're trying to say it's not in place.
In Houston, Texas, police charged an Uber driver with sexual assault following an attack on a customer. He had passed Uber's background check, but it was later discovered he had served 14 years in federal prison for a drug conviction. Houston now requires fingerprinting. With promises to revisit ride-sharing this legislative session, it's not clear if New York state lawmakers will make fingerprinting a requirement. Hagos is hoping that if and when ride-sharing is finally allowed, there will be only one set of rules.
What's good for Uber is good for us. So let's go not double standard. Let's give off the city of Rochester cab driver. Let's do the same as the Uber.
By the way, New York City has Uber only after it worked out a special arrangement working under the taxi regulations there. Uber, meantime, is set to unveil $1 million ad campaign to pressure lawmakers to support ride-sharing upstate. The taxi lobby says that money could pay for a lot of fingerprint background checks.